Good day, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Showing. Tomorrow, Mission Impossible 6 comes out. It would have been 6, but after Part 3, they ditched the numbers and went with like a subtext thing. So tomorrow, Mission Impossible 6 comes out, and it's been a little over 20 years since the first one. And, that's great, and I think that's a franchise that has gotten better and better. I think they found their audience, they found the kind of, storytelling they need to apply rather than making it like the Tom Cruise show, and I think that's what Mission Impossible 2 was all about. That's why a lot of people don't like it. So, I was a projectionist in the industry for a long time, so this is my testimonial for working with, the Mission Impossible movies, and I ran both of those movies. I worked for those movies on 3 different levels. I started in the theater business June 2nd, 2000, several days after Mission Impossible 2 came out, and it was still number 1 at the box office. It was still killing it, and it ended up becoming the highest grossing movie of 2000. And I think The Grinch was right behind it, or like right around the same number. Big movie. Tom Cruise. It was before his whole escapade on Scientology and kind of just like pushing that down everybody's throats in the mid 2000s. So Mission Impossible 2 came out. I was an usher cleaning theaters. 6 years later, I'm still in the industry, and I ran Mission Impossible 3 on 35mm film, and that was right after Tom Cruise jumped on the couch on Oprah, and he started arguing with people about about medicine and his religion and stuff. So early May, Mission Impossible 3 came out. May is a month where they always release those films, 1, 2, and 3. It was May 6th or May 5th, something like that, 2006. It came out, and I think it was about like 6 reels. I don't remember, 6 reels. And I built it up. It was the first Mission Impossible movie I built up. And I remember I used to have a 35mm trailer. I tossed it a while back. I was like, that's not worth anything. And it probably isn't worth anything. Ran the movie. We had 2 prints of it, and it did nothing. It didn't sell that well. It wasn't really a busy weekend. At that time, Tom Cruise kind of slandered his own name by revealing too much about his religion, the Scientology, and after it came out, Paramount, Sumner Redstone, I don't know if he's still running Paramount, I'm assuming not, but at the time, he was the head of Paramount, Viacom. He fired Tom Cruise because of the poor box office performance of Mission Impossible 3. And bear in mind, in May of 2006, you had the Da Vinci Code coming out, and you had X-Men: The Last Stand. So I think a third Mission Impossible movie, especially the second one leaving a bad taste in everyone's mouth, nobody really cared at that point. Interesting, though, Part 3 came out, and people liked it. It was J.J. Abrams' very first movie. And I know he was coming off of Lost and Alias, which were very popular shows around that time. But for some reason, not a lot of people came. I mean, the movie made money, but it didn't have enormous turnout and didn't break any records, any box office records. So it kind of just came and went. And so that was my experience with it. I still have a poster for Part 3. It's a really nice poster, too. And then 5 years later, fast forward to 2011, Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol comes out. Now, this is post-digital, and this movie came out, a majority of the theaters in the country, pretty much all of them, all the major movie theater chains are all digital, came out on digital, so there was no running film. There was uploading the hard drive into the server and, building a playlist and setting it up to play. This one was a little different, though, because it came out around Christmas time. This was the first Mission Impossible to come out in the winter. And it was a big hit. People loved it. People loved Ghost Protocol, and I think it gave enough time for Tom Cruise to calm down and for people to, like, forget about Mission Impossible, and then all of a sudden it comes out 5 years later. So it did very well, and the movies just started getting better and better from that point on. And they ditched the number, so instead of MI4, it was Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. The unique thing about the fourth Mission Impossible was that the guy who directed it, Brad Bird, it was his first live-action feature, and it was also the third movie to utilize IMAX cameras in its production. And they utilized them well. There was a lot of like shots, aerial shots outside of buildings and above buildings, and they knew how to use that camera, how to really like increase the scope of the movie, and they did a great job with it. Some theaters at the time were still running 70mm IMAX. And our theater, the one that I was working at normally was film, and then it became digital in March of that year, 2011. But then they set up, shortly after MI4 Ghost Protocol came out, they set up a railing system to run both digital and IMAX film. So when a film came in, we'd move the digital to the side, and then we'd put forth the film projector, and we'd run an IMAX film. And that was usually when Chris Nolan made a movie. He was pretty much the guy that had the power to get theaters to run film still. But there were IMAX locations still running Ghost Protocol. There was a lot of theaters, not too many, just like a handful. And one theater in New York is Lincoln Square, AMC, and I got tickets to go see the IMAX in Lincoln Square, and that's the second largest IMAX screen in the world, right behind Sydney, Australia. I think Sydney, Australia is still open. I remember they closed down. And it was great. I loved it. The IMAX scenes were like awesome. And the cool thing is, in my previous episode of the Midnight Showing, I talked about Dark Knight and how I Am Legend showed the prequel. I mean, not the prequel, the prologue, the first 6 minutes of Dark Knight on IMAX prints of I Am Legend. They did the same thing with Ghost Protocol. They showed the first 6 minutes of Dark Knight Rises, which was going to come out in July of 2012, and that's like a tradition they kind of followed with, and it was great. It was awesome, but it was only attached to film IMAX prints. So any digital IMAX prints of Ghost Protocol, they only had the trailer, the new Dark Knight Rises trailer. And even the digital prints for Ghost Protocol that showed in IMAX, the image didn't match up to the film size, unfortunately. So, but at least I saw it, on 70mm IMAX film, and I operated it at my digital, my local IMAX theater, the one that I worked out of. So, yeah. And then after Ghost Protocol was Rogue Nation. That was 4 years later, I think 2015. And, right before it came out, I took a hiatus from the theater industry, maybe like 3 or 4 months. And but I still got posters for Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation and Mission Impossible 3. But those movies just got better in time, and at least I got to run Part 3 on film. And, it's kind of weird. Years later, they're still coming out, but now it's like pro-digital world. But not too many film showings as the sequels keep popping out. They're strictly trying to keep it digital. And I think this is MI6, which is Mission Impossible Fallout. That's the first Mission Impossible movie apparently going to be converted into 3D. I don't know about IMAX 3D, but definitely like real D 3D, which I'm shocked because that type of gimmick is no longer needed. It's not wanted. But yeah, so thank you very much for watching. This is an 80s Die Hard production. And tune in next time. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, I appreciate all your subscriptions and your support. Please leave a comment, if you have any questions about film or, projection work. So it was a fun time. Later, guys. Have a good day. Enjoy Mission Impossible Fallout. And obviously watch the previous installments. Bye.